Colorado Springs is in an unflattering and maybe even groundbreaking position. The people of Colorado Springs voted to pass Amendment 64 by almost 5,000 votes back in November 2012. But in 2013, the City Council voted to ban retail sales in Colorado Springs, leaving us in the enviable or perhaps unenviable position of being the second largest metropolitan area in the state that is not allowing retail marijuana sales.
Something like legalizing marijuana sales in Colorado Springs, which is generating a $1 billion market in Colorado right now. Since it does not cost tax money, why is this not being considered more directly and rapidly in the council or on the ballot?
Why not? Well, I would guess it's probably because of some of the restraint that the mayor has not wanted to do it. And
what is the magic number, Councilman? What is Colorado Springs technically short? There's not literally a magic
you want
number.
$2 million. The mayor wants $2 million for potholes.
Or $218.6 million for City for Champions.
Well, that would be over 30 years.
That's still a lot of money that could very easily be drawn from a very legal source right now in Colorado. But it is not being discussed at all by the council.
Yeah, no, I've already answered that. I've not talked to anybody about it.
Isn't governance about funding and finding the best way to fund our municipalities? How can you say you don't pay attention to such a massive potential market?
Because we have not legalized it in Colorado Springs. And since it's not legalized in Colorado Springs, it's not an issue for us because we don't have to worry about making the budget work for it or not making the budget work for it or doing whatever is necessary for it.
And then simultaneously building City for Champions for $218 million, which I know you're not necessarily in favor of now. That just seems counterintuitive, that we've got it all worked out, budget is balanced, we don't need to figure this out, but here, let's spend $218 million more over 30 years and ignore, it is legal in Colorado, all it is a stroke of a pen, and it's a brand new revenue source for this municipality.
That, you know, it's not just
very
sir, this is not just about taxation, so let's just tell where it was. I said there was multiple issues why this hasn't come forward.
These venues celebrate the region's history and are the vehicles to increase tourism and boost our city's economy. The Air Force Academy Gateway Visitors Center offers a new visitor experience that honors the historical legacy of the Academy. The Sports Medicine and Performance Center at UCCS will enable the community to leverage the growing focus on medical tourism. The U.S. Olympic Museum, the one and only, will celebrate and honor American Olympians while providing a gateway into Southwest downtown. And the Colorado Sports and Events Center will feature something for everyone in the community.
So the irony is the power structure that actually opposed Amendment 64 implementation against the will of the voters is the same power structure getting resistance from the people trying to shove these 4 projects down people's throats. So they could have had their bread and their butter and eaten all of it together.
If you take our city leaders' apparent laissez-faire attitude about marijuana tax revenues and combine that with our mayor's apparent passion for spending $218.6 million on the City for Champions project, the question has to be asked, why are we not having a legitimate, serious debate about legalizing marijuana in Colorado Springs?
If we in this town, i.e. you and the mayor, the city council and the mayor, are having these dust-ups over spending, why are we not seriously discussing a very effective legal way to raise capital for all of these projects and potholes and Cities for Champions?
Well, for several reasons. One is I'm skeptical of the numbers. I just don't believe that they're going to be able to make that much. And if it does, then great, Denver and Pueblo can fix their problems. I don't think we need to jump into that quite yet. But we also have another impact too. As I said before, it's illegal under federal law. And we have a number of federal installations here. And that's an issue for us.
Even though the Pentagon has said they don't care.
Yeah, well, they do.
What if I were to flip it a little bit on you and say that the rate at which you're describing reductions in military almost seems to indicate an inevitable close to our relationship with the military in the area, or at least a dynamic change in the size of that relationship?
It is happening.
Why not start being proactive in our thinking and say, how else can we bolster Colorado Springs' sources of revenue? We're already a very large tourist attraction because of that giant mountain sitting out the window there.
Yep,
and the amazing outdoor activities we have.
absolutely.
With a simple stroke of a pen.
You could add marijuana sales to it.
And
Well,
Denver
let's-
is now the most Googled airline ticket in the world. Wouldn't it be nice if Colorado Springs was the second most searched term on tickets?
We'll see how it plays out over time.
Now, Mark Slot with Every Vote Counts, he had an article in the CS Indy that estimated the black market, weed market, at $150 million. So the illegal market in Colorado Springs is $150 million. If we legalize that market in Colorado Springs and we tax it like Manitou Springs, they're looking at 10.4% tax pouring into their city coffers. Colorado Springs is easily looking at $15 million a year in tax revenues just from legalizing retail marijuana.
It is interesting. I will tell you, tax-wise, we have an existing 3.9% sales tax. You add the additional 5% that passed in November, and then the state basically remits 1.5% back. So the total tax incidence for Manitou Springs on recreational marijuana will be 10.4%. But the potential is for a considerable amount of revenue.
So if we look at City for Champions, Mayor Bach likes to spread that cost out over like 30 years. Well, 15 million a year for tax revenues times 30 years, that's $450 million. So we will very easily pay for City for Champions $218.6 million cost and have over $200 million left over for schools, police, housing, healthcare, who knows what, all from just a stroke of the pen.
I really think this is an opportunity, and a lot of those folks in law enforcement in the schools tell me that they're really pulling for this to be successful. Now, they can't really be out front in public on that, given the nature of their positions and potential fallout that might come from them being out front on this issue. But I talk to them privately, and I agree with them. It's already here. I've lived in Colorado 20 years now. I've never known anybody who wanted to get marijuana that had any trouble getting it. Okay, so let's just be honest about that fact. I think the opportunities to address some of those problems through legal recreational marijuana far outweigh the potential negative impacts that may result.
So the way I see it, Colorado Springs basically has two choices. Number one, we can just kind of sit back, put our tails between our legs, and let power players do what power players do, and that's essentially make decisions without the will of the people. We passed Amendment 64 in Colorado Springs. We passed Amendment 64 in El Paso County, and they overrode it. Our voices don't matter. Or, second option, the people of Colorado Springs stand up, and they say, this isn't right. And we have spoken, and we do want tax revenue. We do want growth. We do want progress. We want spending on things like City for Champions, but we want it paid for in a responsible way with an incredible revenue base that is going to be legal marijuana.